And here we go again. Testing. Okay, and yes, I am early once again, folks. That's because, again, I have a little thing to do for a few minutes before we go live. And rather than waste everybody's time while we are live, I'd rather do this, well, before we're live. Ugh. Come on, there we go. And anyway, that gives an excuse to break out some cast iron. Specifically, the Wagner chicken fryer, which has indeed been used to make chicken. Although I haven't, here we go. I haven't fried it this time. Instead, I've been slow cooking it this afternoon because I wanted to make some pulled chicken. Basically chicken that pulls apart, because this will make a good filling for a pot pie. And I've got these extra skins I'm going to have to find a use for. Gee, that's such a shame. All right. These are chicken thighs, so bones should be pretty large, pretty easy to see, or at least I would hope so. Yeah, just after lunch, which was at about, in other words, just around 2:30 this afternoon, I put some chicken thighs into this chicken fryer here, covered it, sprinkled them with salt, pepper, and garlic powder, put them in the oven, and turned the oven to 250. That's Fahrenheit, of course. And they've been slow cooking in there with one little break um, since then. So, counting the break, they've been essentially slow cooking at 250 for about, I would say at least 4 hours. So that's not so bad. And it definitely means we've got some pull apart chicken here. Because yeah, while you can, of course, cook the chicken, you don't have to cook the chicken in advance when you make a pot pie. It certainly helps because what this really means is we'll just be able to put the filling together and then bake it. Makes it that much easier to do. Kind of like what I did with the apple pie. Essentially pre-cooked the ingredients and then just stuffed the pie shell with it. Two. All right. And gee, one chicken skin. Mm-hmm. Mm. Very simple, as I said, no more than salt, pepper, and garlic powder. Probably my favorite basic chicken seasoning. And since these are thighs, it's like that. It's almost impossible to dry them out. It can be done, like if I had slow cooked them for maybe 12 hours or so, but right now should not be any problem at all. A little bit more skin. Cook's privilege. Mm-hmm. That takes care of my supper. And again, with the cost of everything going up, why bother getting something like canned chicken when, if you're lucky, you can find them on sale still for maybe about 99 cents a pound? Nice big package of chicken thighs, skin on, bone on. And as you can see, again, all we do is slow cook them. We've got more than enough chicken here. I'll say again, this is an unmarked Wagner chicken fryer, number 9 size, in fact. This was a lucky Brimfield find. In fact, even at Brimfield, I only ended up paying $20 for the chicken fryer. Then I had to score the lid, but I managed to do that. So, especially with the price of antique cast iron these days, especially Wagner, I'd like to think I did not bad. All right, there we go. And, ooh, as usually, always spill something. Anyway, bam. Excuse me. Now, oh, this is still warm. Where did I put that pot holder already? There it is. I'll have to put this over here. Okay. And with that, we are just about 1 minute before 8 o'clock. So glad I did that in advance. Means the next thing to focus on will be the mixer. And bam, video has already begun. When did that happen? It happened about maybe 6 or 7 minutes ago. I started early again, Val, because again, I wanted to spend some time making pulled chicken. I had slow cooked some chicken thighs in the oven for a few hours, especially so that I would have some nice chicken to go into the pot pie tonight. And I wanted to prepare it early so that I would not have to prepare it during the yes, she does. She drinks from it regularly, so I'm happy about that, Rocket Caver. All right, there we go. All right, it's time for the show. And there we are. Thank you for waiting. Hi there. Welcome, everybody, once again to what we call Cast Iron Wednesday. And quite a few of the smaller cooking channels here on YouTube have been doing a cast iron video regularly on Wednesday, which hence the name, of course, because, well, it gives us an excuse to play around with cast iron. And I'm more than happy to do that because I've been doing that now for, has it really been 3.5 years already? Yes, apparently it has. Can't believe this coming August, it will be 4 years my doing these live videos on Wednesday. Almost every Wednesday. There have occasionally been delays, unfortunately, but I do try to make this as regularly as possible. Largely because you folks here, again, are a big reason why I've been doing this for so long, because it's so much fun to do these live videos with you folks. All you folks here, like Rocket Caver, Val's Black Cats Rule, hello, and hello, William Hurt, and hello, Clico, and hello again to Cynthia Wesley and Terry Sinchif. I don't own a chicken fryer, but I belong to a club that owns one that I use. It's a Chicago hardware favorite. Oh, nice. Oh, that's a nice chicken fryer, all right. Hardware favorite, huh? And hello, 4Jim44 and Pip Gorn and Clico. I think I said hi to Marilyn M. Lenhart or Lenart. I can't pronounce that. Who apparently had a piece that actually she found a vintage piece that actually had lead. Well, my condolences about that, but unfortunately, that's why we have to keep an eye out. Basically, it's like you should test for lead if you have a reason to be suspicious. I mean, there's that fine line, of course. Do I test every single cast iron pan I find for lead? No, because with some pans, I feel the odds of there being lead are practically impossible. Not completely, but practically. If like cast iron inherited from family, for instance. So, but nonetheless, yeah, I had no reason for suspicion. Oh, okay. Well, then in that case, you did pretty good. And actually, I'm also glad that you were able to find a lead test these days, because as we know, the very popular 3M lead test seems to have been discontinued a couple of years ago. I'm still looking for an acceptable substitute myself. But yes, here we are again here on Cast Iron Wednesday. And this is part two of a three-part series that I started last week, where basically I am just making homemade versions of those. Well, probably the most popular cheap frozen foods you can get out of Walmart. These are the things that I had in my freezer. My freezer was stuffed to the gills with them in the days before I learned how to cook. You know the kind we're talking about. Everybody has had them at one time or another. Those are those Walmart frozen burritos, especially the beef and bean burritos, which we made last week and ended up with some really nice refried beans that way. The next thing we'll be doing tonight will be pot pies, because again, those are another thing that you see all the time, cheap in the frozen food section at Walmart and Dollar Tree. Usually the Banquet brand pot pies, and yeah, they are decent. I mean, if they weren't decent, well, then we wouldn't get them. But I mean, why settle for decent when it's really not that difficult to make it at home and end up with what should be a much better result? Meanwhile, next week is pizza night again, because that's the third thing we're going to be doing. Mainly making something that's better than the Walmart frozen microwave cardboard pizzas. So get me a turkey pot pie. Well, okay, I'm not. Yeah, tell me. I can tell you which products are good at the dollar store. Yes, indeed. I got a surprise delivery last night, and all large stuff, posted it on my channel. Well, congratulations to you then, Fuzzfork. But no, I'm not using turkey tonight, although I know people usually do after Thanksgiving, of course. Instead, I spent the afternoon slow cooking some chicken thighs. So we've got a nice big bowl of still hot pulled chicken here that we'll be able to mix into our pot pie. And what can I say? Pot pies, of course, are so easy. All you need to do, of course, is mix together the filling, put them in the pie shells, and bake them. But in my case, I wanted to try to, be a little bit different, so to speak, and make a homemade pie shell. Just because, well, just the same thing. The homemade pie shells are still much better than the ones you buy at the store. Now, the ones at the store are just fine. But the thing is, I mean, what you have at the store is basically a single generic frozen pie crust that you're supposed to use for everything. You want an apple pie, you use a pie crust. You want a pecan pie, use that pie crust. You want a pot pie, use that same pie crust. It's generic and it goes with everything. But if one nice thing about making these things at home is that, of course, you can flavor the crust and make it just to your liking, so that people will actually want to eat the crust. I mean, I suppose it's true in the early days, pot pies, the crust was really meant just simply to hold the pie together and hold the filling. But why settle for that when you can actually make a tasty pie filling? Who'd have thunk it? And saying that, well, that means I've got the bowl of my mixer here. So let's get started here. I cooked spaghetti casserole, boiled corn, garlic, and cheese sticks. Well, that sounds pretty good too. You have any fans at home of your pot pie? Well, I don't know if I have any fans of my pot pie, but the ones I've made have been, I think they've turned out good. So anyway, here's a starter. We're supposed to do 2.5 cups of flour. And here already, I'm going to deviate from the recipe, sort of. In that, I'm going to do 1.5 cups of flour. One, 2, and this is a 3/4 cup, which I found to be actually really useful as a measuring cup. So we've already got 1.5 cups of flour in there. And to that, let me put this aside. And instead, I'm going to break out something else. And that is more of the seasoning, or rather the breading that is I made from the fried chicken I made over the weekend. So yeah, this is like the professional seasoning. No, this is the chicken seasoning that they use at Crown Fried Chicken, and that should help give this a savory taste. So I'm going to throw in about a cup or so of this and mix it in, so that we're not only are we going to have an interesting tasting pot pie, but it's going to be an interesting colored one as well. Besides, it'll give me a chance to use this stuff too. All right, so there's a starter for you, and that means, oh, I always forget something. In this case, I forgot. There it is. Actually, forgot the dough hook for the pie, for the mixer. But now we can move over. Looks like I got to readjust a couple of things again. And now it's time at last to take another look at the mixer. It's been a little while since I've used the mixer, and so I'm glad to be able to be. Let's try that again. Yeah, there's a good view for you. And I'm glad to be able to break out the mixer again. I think the last time I used this, in fact, was when I made a birthday cake last December. Okay, so it wasn't that long ago, maybe about a month ago. Let's get this started. All right, and up we go. See if I can get some kind of a better view of this, in fact. All right, folks will be patient. That's actually not too bad, I think. Finally. Ugh, sorry about that. Okay, there's a view for you. Thank you once again for your patience. And with that, there's a starter. Another nice thing is we use a teaspoon of salt. Salt. Oh, did I put away the salt? Okay, let's dig out the salt. All right. 1 teaspoon of salt. And especially since this is going to be a savory crust, I'm going to throw in yet a couple more things. Besides the salt, I get to throw in a little bit of pepper, not too much, maybe half a teaspoon or so. I've got a container of parsley flakes I could use up. A little bit of rosemary. And a little bit of thyme. Oh, I can definitely smell this. This is going to be an interesting crust, all right. Because now that I've seasoned it, now we can get down to adding some wet ingredients. That means the next thing we do is 6 tablespoons unsalted butter. All right, that means I got to get this out of the fridge because I've been chilling it all this time. Also, this particular recipe calls for a combination of butter and shortening. Now, in this case, I'm going to use lard. As you can see, I'm only using healthy ingredients tonight. All right. Gotta get this. Pardon me. And I made a mistake. I should have unwrapped this before. Oh well. Just have to do this as fast as I can. Although it certainly helps though that I'm mixing it in here. Chop. 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 And chop. There we go. 6 tablespoons of butter. And from that, I'm also supposed to use 2/3 of a cup of vegetable shortening. Or in this case, once again, I'm going to use good old lard. Lard. 2/3 of a cup, huh? I see a half cup. Here's my 1/3 cup. Come on, do this right. Oh, good grief. Always something, isn't it? Plop. Come on, you know what? Yeah, there. Boy, and that's only 1/3 of a cup. Let's get another one in as quickly as we can. Stubborn little thing, I'll say that much. All right. Here we go. Now that we've done that, all right, what are we doing next? We are next viewing. And here's the part where we're supposed to add cold water. Okay, I don't think 30 minutes water bath canning is enough for chicken soup. My sister-in-law has a pressure canner. She loves it for big cooking. I'm not sure if that's a 6-cup bowl, but I certainly hope so. I inherited this mixer from my dad, and I never did actually take the measurements. But, yeah, this is giving it a nice consistency. I'll say that much. Now is the part where we mix it together until we get ourselves a dough. And rather than using water, I'm using chicken broth. A little bit at a time, because you know how this thing clumps up when you add water. It's already getting a nice consistency. I think probably the shortening of the butter certainly helps. Looks like we're about ready already, if you ask me. Yeah, this looks pretty solid already. That sure didn't take long, and I certainly didn't even use half a cup of liquid. Nonetheless, boy, it even has a nice smell to it too. So get this thing out of the way. Come on, you know what? Always something. Move this, move that. There, at last. Where did I just put that knife? There it is. A little bit of this and that. Boy, this sure doesn't look like 3.5 cups. I'll say that much, but nonetheless, did I do that right? No, it's 2.5 cups. That's right. Even so, that should be more than enough. Okay, get this out of the way and move these out of the way, including the parts that I've already used. There we go. Want to spill any of this? That wasn't too hard. This, the other thing. Yeah, we definitely have ourselves a dough, that's for sure. No problem at all. And I know I'm not supposed to overwork it. So, interesting consistency to this. All right, now until, okay, because we still have to prepare the pie filling, right now I'm going to do the part where you wrap it, pop it in the fridge, at least until we're ready to actually do the pie. A little bit of that, a little bit of this. Okay, and that is part one. We have our pie dough, which means now time to move on to part two. Well, that means putting this lard back in the fridge. Always one more thing. And the flour. Okay. All right. Finally. Thank you for waiting, folks. Having done that, it's time now to switch to the, okay, here we go now. All right. Okay, here's the part where it's time now to have some more fun with cast iron. There we go. More specifically, say hello again to the Birmingham Stove and Range number 10 size Century cast iron skillet, which I'm going to start heating up right now at about medium heat. Meanwhile, we're also supposed to heat the oven to 425, which is what I'm doing right now. Okay. I'll close that out. All right. Okay, we've got crusts. All right, here's the part where we start with our, essentially what we're making right now. Oh, nuts. I actually forgot to chop the onion. I can't believe I forgot to chop the onion. Okay, so I've got excuse me, one more thing to do, but this will not take long. I will do my best to make sure of that. This is a decent sized onion. So I do apologize. I should have done this part before the live started, but this was my own fault. Well, anyway, we can do this. Come on, wires. We can do this while the pan is heating up. I can even turn down the pan itself. Do this nice and easy and quick. Get rid of all this extra. And here is where I get to demonstrate once again that I am not a professional chef. You know how those chefs can just go have an onion sliced in something like 5 seconds? Yeah, that's not me. Although I do my best. First thing we have to do is peel off, of course, there's one, and then two. Trick to peeling an onion is don't be afraid to actually peel off the first layer of the onion skin, because I know it's like, yeah, but you could use that. Well, actually, for the sake of convenience, it's worth sacrificing that first layer of skin. So now, just a matter, I don't even, when doing my onions here, I don't even try to follow the angle of the grooves on the onion or anything. I just make nice, simple, straight cuts and then just go perpendicular. And there we go. So there's one. This is the part where you know you're an amateur if you amateur cook if you do this. Because apparently if you chop your onions good enough, you don't have to do this. Well, guess what? I have to do this. But I just have to be careful, of course, not to cut myself that way. And now here comes, actually, let's dig out my bowl very quickly. Here's my bowl. Oh, good. Here it is. For the record, if you don't have one of these, get one. It is enormously useful, especially for instances like this. The pastry cutter and and bread cutter and dough cutter, as well as what I usually use it for, a scraper. And now for part number two. I also never learned how to cut with my fingers right up against the knife blade. I know it's like you put your knuckles against it, but I have not been able to get myself to do that. It's like a reflex thing, so I simply can't do it, or have not been able to do it. I shouldn't say can't. And once again, I am doing the unnecessary chop, chop, chop of the onions. But there we go. Sorry for the delay, but hey, here are the onions we will be using in the pot pie. And this, in fact, there's got to be more than enough here. All right, which means it's time to get back to the cast iron, folks. So thank you again. Coolest thing about KitchenAid is that the attachments made to fit all their measurement. Yeah, they will fit all their mixers no matter how old. Yeah, that is very convenient. I will agree there. Once again, we are back to the BSR Century, which means we get around again. We start with about another 1/3 cup of butter or margarine. Let me dig out a little bit more butter. All right. I had that extra pat of butter. Oh, here it is. Here's a start. Here's the extra, about 2 tablespoons of butter from the last stick. Into that, we will, here it is, we will throw in another half stick. And that should be about 1/3 of a cup. There we go. At last. Why do I feel like I'm less prepared tonight than I usually am? Sorry about that. But anyway, here we are. We melting butter in a BSNR 12.5-inch skillet. Well, of course, a 12.5-inch skillet has about a 10-inch cooking surface. but there's still plenty of room in here, as there will be. And while I'm waiting, let me see. After this, we will be throwing in the onion, a little bit more flour. Get that flour back out. Terry, they say the most dangerous tool in the kitchen is a dull knife, and whoever said that never met mercy. Oh, dull knife. That's what you meant by that. And I will agree there. Yes. Believe me, the first time, I will never forget the first time I cut broccoli with a sharp knife. That was when I realized how important it is to have a sharp knife. Sharp knives only cut when you wash them in the sink. You know, you really are onto something, Fuzz Fork. No question about that. All right, so there's that. Now we throw in the onions. Oh, yes. Whether or not you like the bitter taste of onions, cooked onions are something else entirely, especially onions cooked in butter. I think I got a little piece of the onion skin in here, unfortunately. There it is, and there it goes. Really just a matter of cooking this until the onions are nice and soft. Yeah, because I do want everything to be fully cooked before putting it in the pie. That way, all we'll have to do is bake the crust. And you know, considering the extra seasonings and herbs and stuff I put in that crust, I'm wondering if maybe I should lower the oven from 425, as this suggests, to 400. Maybe less of a chance of burning the crust that way. Is that a 12 skillet? No, it is a 10 skillet, Sharon S. This is a number 10 size BSNR Century Series skillet. Several years ago, I was lucky enough to get a BSNR number 12. I think I traded for it. And then I found myself not using it. Why? Because I already had a number 14 size skillet and a number 10 size skillet, although it was a large in those days. But between those two, I found myself with no use or very little use for a number 12. So I actually ended up selling it. One of the few times I've sold cast iron, on Facebook, in fact. And frankly, I haven't really regretted it because I get a lot of use out of this 12-inch here. And as you know, I get a lot of use out of old Stumpy, my number 14. And haven't really had much of a reason to have anything in between. Always cook my onions in butter before I add them to super stew. Yes, indeed. I do believe they're starting to change color already, so I think we're getting to the right point here. That means time to start making our roux. Okay, good. We're going to be using more of that chicken broth. That's good. And that means now it's time to throw in about a third of a cup of flour. Not that I'm bragging, but I'm getting a little better at doing my gravy to the point where I've been starting to eyeball it when it comes to the gravy ingredients. Yeah, because that's essentially what we have in this pot pie. It is going to be a very, very thick gravy with veggies and chicken mixed in. So that means, in the words of good old not Justin Hayward. He was with the Moody Blues. I forget Justin's last name. The Cooking Cajun. Anyway, in the words of the Cooking Cajun, first you gotta make a roux. And to do that, we simply have to wait until this becomes at least a blonde roux. I mean, right now we just have a raw or white roux, but we need to at least change it to a blonde roux before we can start adding other ingredients. But that only takes a couple of minutes, especially at this heat. Justin Wilson, of course. How could I have forgotten Justin Wilson? Terry Sinchef, I don't own a number 12 skillet, but the club I belong to has one. So do I. So, yeah, you seem to say that a lot. I don't have it, but the club I belong to has it. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, hey, it's a good excuse to use that cast iron. I'm betting if you don't use it, how often is it used? Yeah, see, we're already getting to the point. I only have this stove here on halfway, and as you can see, it's already doing a great job really cooking this stuff. So before it burns, time now. Well, it mentions throw in a little bit of salt, which is not a bad plan. And now at last, time to actually, I should in fact get out the whisk. Switch to a whisk. And this is definitely a blonde roux now, so it's definitely time to start adding in a chicken broth. Well, you can add vegetable broth if you want, but this is a chicken pot pie. So, of course, it would be better to use chicken broth. And that's one thing it took me a while to learn when making gravy. The fact that the first time you add the liquid, it actually causes everything, as you can see, to clump together. I was making a mistake and adding too much flour to my gravy beforehand before I learned this. But now, as you can see, everything is all together. Now it's just a matter of mixing in the chicken broth a little bit at a time. If I end up running out of chicken broth, I suppose I could just throw in some milk. There we go. This will probably start getting it to the right consistency. Yeah, there we go. We are already starting to get to something like a gravy. Now it occurs to me maybe I should have rolled out the dough into the pan, into the pot before I got this far. All right, it's okay. Everything is still going to be warm. Besides, all I'll need to do is just mix in a little bit more. Maybe I should, it might not even a bad idea, I think, to turn it off at this point because I can always heat it up and continue adding liquid. So I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to turn off the heat. Whoop, no, get out my pot holder. Move this off the heat and head back again to the crust. Hello, Celine, 77 star 99. You could probably find a VCR online like eBay. I was never addicted to cooking shows until one day I came across an Italian cooking show with cleavage. I've heard that one before. 1 minute for full thickening. It is, but not healthier. Okay, now that we've done that, as I said, I should really get ready for my pot pie crust, that is. So let's clean this workspace off a little bit. And let's break out some cast iron, shall we? In fact, more than one nonetheless. What we have here are 3 vintage Number 5, cast iron skillets. I hope I have enough to fill all 3 of these. Maybe I might end up with 2. But one of them is a single notch lodge. For, as you can see, it definitely has the markings of a lodge there, especially notice just the single notch on the top and an IW on the bottom, which I guess would be like the shift marker or maker's mark. I'm still not an expert at these markings here on lodge pans. Then from there, we go on to, with a little bit of stuff on it, a Birmingham Stove and Range handwritten number 5 skillet. Yeah, I think maybe I'll stick with 2. Based on this, well, there might be enough for a third, but I'm not sure. But if there is enough for a third, I've got a BSNR Red Mountain skillet all ready for it. So, what is your favorite food to cook? It's hard to say, really. I mean, I enjoy making rice. I enjoy making pizza. I enjoy making giant cookies. I'm very proud of my recipe for chocolate cake and Boston baked beans. So I really can't say I have a single favorite food to cook, I'm sorry to say. I mean, it was steak in cast iron that first got me interested in this. But even so, I really wouldn't call it my favorite. Nonetheless, all right, as I said, we've got the single notch lodge and the handwritten BSR and the Crisco. So, dig this out. I'll clean up my workspace again. And we'll start here with the lodge. This is easy. All right. Will rise. I guess I should mention earlier this week on Monday, in fact, I went to court but because I had been summoned for jury duty. So I spent all day at the court sitting around waiting to be called for jury duty to see whether or not I would be a juror. And I was called. And it took until 4:30 in the afternoon until I was finally called. However, then after questioning me, they determined that I was not appropriate to sit on that jury. And so, with the majority of other people they'd called, I was dismissed. But nonetheless, I have done my citizen's duty for the next 6 years, as it turns out, which is nice. Okay, and here's the other. Now that we've got these two, time now to dig out yet another kitchen hack. This one I learned from Alton Brown. Put these aside carefully. I do not want to drop these. And break out the wax paper. So I still have Crisco on my hands. I've got to at least wipe off my hands before I can continue. Now, the trick I learned from Alton Brown is to use not one, but 2 pieces of wax paper and actually put the crust between the 2. That way, there's a lot less chance of it sticking to the board when we roll it out. So there we are. And that also means I get to head over to my baking drawer. Once again, dig out the rolling pin. I seem to have a story for everything, and I'm hoping that's a good thing. And I'll tell you my next story in just a minute. Well, in fact, you folks here on live were here when this story unfolded. Here is the that same dough that we prepared with all of the seasonings in it has an interesting, almost orange color to it. That's largely because there's turmeric in it. So anyway, as I said with Alton Brown, you put it between two sheets of wax paper. And then from there, start with the rolling pin. All right, actually, what am I doing? If I'm going to be doing this in, I am not thinking, because I just realized if I'm going to be doing this in two cast iron skillets and I have top and bottom, that means I had better split this dough out, shouldn't I? And that means I need to make approximately, somehow separate this into quarters. Let's see, a little bit here and a little bit there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boy, did I miscount. All right, a little bit more here, here, and here. There we go. Now we have four pieces of dough. That'll make this much easier, I think. Let's put this over here. Good. I'll put it in the other pan, in fact. Now, as I was saying, you put it between two pieces of wax paper and roll it out. Anyway, the story was I was here on live, in fact, when I tried a French-style rolling pin for the first time. Oh, yeah, although I do have to take off my ring because it clicks on the rolling pin every time I use it. However, I loved this rolling pin, and I still love this rolling pin. I think it feels great. I feel like I've got a lot of control with this rolling pin. So yeah, I really enjoy having this French style rolling pin. And if you have never used a French style rolling pin, give it a try and see what you think. Maybe it might not be your cup of tea, or maybe it will be. Yeah, that's right, because I think I had lost my rolling pin that I'd inherited from Mom when I moved here to New York, regrettably. So because of that, I had to get a replacement rolling pin, and that's when I wanted to try the French style, which I have not regretted, not one bit. On. There we go. Yeah, especially since I'm only rolling out 4 crusts, I guess it is definitely going to be in 2 pans. Anyway, I think we're already, yeah, we are at just about the right size already for the first crust. But as you can see, again, putting it between 2 pieces of wax paper made it much easier to roll this out with no sticking. Now, that's the phrase we use a lot when cooking, isn't it? No sticking. There's one. All right, so here once again is the handwritten BSNR, because BSR ain't no BS. With that, fluff. Careful. However, if I'm talking about no sticking, I can see I'm definitely going to have to very carefully peel this off of the wax paper right now. I mean, granted, if the crust tears, it's easy enough to patch, but it would be something of a nuisance. So let's do this slowly. There we go. Looks like a little piece got off there. All right. Anyway, there's one. And as you can see, I made this crust completely lopsided. So I'll just take a little piece off there and put it over here and keep poking away at it until this thing gets the shape we want. Nothing to do. All right. Yeah. I also don't want to put holes in this crust. All right. So do this right. Have patience. I'm telling myself that, not telling you folks that, because you do have patience. Just the fact that you're actually watching this shows that you have patience. Yes, and that. All right. Anyway, there we are. There's one crust. Which means now we get to do it all over again. Roll out another crust. This and this and the rolling pin. Okay. Close the pop-up that just showed up here that's blocking the chat. Come on. Thank you. Celine77. I saw a bottle of eggnog on clearance that has bourbon, rum, and brandy in it. Thought to try whole nutmeg on my impulse buy. Oh, I see. So you mean you added nutmeg to it? Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I'm not sure if that store bought eggnog had nutmeg in it, although I would hope it did. I mean, that's an essential flavor in eggnog. Yeah, I noticed at the liquor stores they were selling alcoholic eggnog in for typically anywhere from $10 to $12 a bottle. And I am so glad that I made it myself, because I would think that the cost of what that homemade eggnog was a lot less than that. I'll just push it aside little by little. I've seen some professional chefs with these rolling pins. They practically put their fingers, they practically bend their fingers backwards, largely because they've been using these rolling pins for so long. Which is pretty impressive. All right, now I think it's time to flip this again. Come on. Don't want to ruin this. Slowly. There we go. All right. There's two. And that should be enough. As long as I've got this, I'll be able to put the filling in the pie pan, or in the pan rather, and then I'll be able to roll out the last crust and cover it. And I realized that if I had decided to use store-bought pie crusts, this pot pie would have been much faster and probably easier to make because, it seems like we spent most of the time on the pie crust here. It took almost no time at all to start preparing that roux for the filling. So let's uncover this slowly and get out the other pan, which again is the Lodge single notch. Oh yeah, again, this should work properly. I say should, mind you. And just like before, let's very carefully peel this. Probably doesn't help that this thing is probably close to room temperature by now, not cold anymore. Come on, you know what? Don't panic. Mm. You know what? I don't trust myself. I do not trust myself. This has got to come out. Come on. And I'm going to do it this way. Come on. Oh, come on, please. Don't tell me this is going to stick. You can see I have to use another piece of wax paper. Almost there. All right, all right. We'll get it. We will get it. Yeah, definitely need another piece of wax paper. This thing tore a little bit. But, come on. Come on, you know what? All right. Whew. Well, at least it's out. All right. That means... Oh, I think I'm just going to have to press it out in the pan once again, best as I can. Also, I'm going to take these last two pieces and stick them back in the fridge. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Now, once again, let's get this. All right, press it up into the pan as best as we can. Again, all I need is patience. This should not be difficult. Patience you must have. Patience. Okay. Little by little. Likewise here. Catch up a little hole there. As you can see, it's actually getting close already because I'm just being patient. Okay, I'm thinking now, in fact, since I'm doing two separate pies, I think I made a mistake and I think I did not make enough crust. It should work, but probably only just barely. The 2.5 cups is more than enough for a single top and bottom layer pie, but it's just barely fitting into these two number 5 pans. However, it is fitting. Here, see? Just need to be patient more than anything else. Little by little. All right, we need Mr. Miyagi. Wax on, wax off. Breathe in, breathe out. Even so, I have to say the crust smells nice. I am glad I added those extra seasonings into it. That in itself is going to make this an interesting little pie. And I just realized one thing I did not add to this crust is baking soda or powder. But do you believe we have it? As I said, it took some patience, but nonetheless, we have a crust. And in fact, that means we have two pie crusts. Phew. Okay, I love New York. Yeah, I'm pretty fond of it myself, but my wife made a holy grail quest out of getting the perfect pie crust. She's gotten pretty dang close. As I will certainly tell you that it requires quite a bit of effort. Now I've got to start reheating this roux gravy here. Definitely requires the right touch to make a good pie crust. I hope what I have is at least a mediocre pie crust. Nonetheless, all right, let's heat this up again because this has gotten all solid and everything. That also means I'll have to throw in a little bit of liquid, which I will gladly do. And then from here, as I said, it's just a matter, again, of patience, letting this thing heat up. So in fact, I probably don't even have to touch it for a couple of minutes or so. All right, Celine, Jerry, tell us your mother's secret pie crust recipe. Freezing in winter, hotter than Hades in summer. I wish I could have no idea. I wish I could. I had no idea other than they were always yummy. My favorite movie, oh yeah, The Karate Kid. I believe The Karate Kid was by the same guy who made Rocky. My mom was a great pie crust maker. My great aunt always used puff. Yeah, I made a pie with puff pastry before, and that was actually really, really good too. Our kitchen is so cold that butter pulled in the morning is still hard to cream 6 hours later. Puff pastry crust with a chicken pot pie is delish. Yes, exactly. I used to have them at KFC years ago. Of course, puff pastry crust, unfortunately, is a lot more expensive in the store than the cheap frozen pie crust. But you can only hope you're getting quality from that. I once purchased whole nutmeg that tasted like almond butter. I was never able to find a replacement again. Yes, indeed. I have. Yeah, I am using whole nutmeg as well and grinding it with a microplane when I use nutmeg now. Uh, Maybe several months ago, I took the step of getting whole nutmeg, and it really changed my view of nutmeg to the point where I'm never going to be satisfied again with ground nutmeg from the store. I would much rather grind it myself. All right, well, it's starting to steam up already, so we're off to a decent start here. It's also starting to bubble, but there we go. I think that last one, give it a good consistency again. All right, now we're definitely getting somewhere. Okay. I found it because of the poverty. Rocket is because of the poverty stigma. I wonder why meat pies aren't as popular in the U.S. as in the U.K. Yeah, there is that. It does cost more for meat pie. That's one of the reasons why the UK is kind of famous, or infamous, I guess you could say, for what they call unhealthy foods. I mean, I know they talk about the United States having all of these unhealthy foods and making everybody fat, but when you look at the amount of fat used in cooking British foods, well, all I can say is the UK gives us a run for our money. Of course, they have several hundred years worth of experience in cooking over us, so that's certainly to be expected. But here we go. This thing is definitely steaming now. So we're back at the right point here. All right, now at last, we can move on here. Really, the hard part is just about done. Because now that we've done all that, it's time at last to finally add the meat. Mentions about 2.5 cups of cooked meat. This would probably be enough, probably more than enough, in fact. Oh, gee, that means I'm going to have a little extra to eat. What a shame. I'm going to switch back here. And if I have to add more liquid, of course, I will. But until then, which I think I may have to do, finally, remember the onions are in here. They seem to have been absorbed nicely into the gravy. So that's not so bad right now. In fact, this is indeed turning into what you could definitely call a pot pie filling, that's for sure. So we're off to a decent start. That means at last, finally time for the last ingredient. It would be peas and carrots. Let me just do this and drain it. Only at this moment I realize I made another mistake. I should have used frozen peas and carrots. Regardless, what we have, and I'm sure this is what a lot of people have as well. So I'm just quickly draining this. Yeah, like I said, if I hadn't spent all this time making the crust, again, this would have been done by now. I have little doubt about that. As it stands, we're almost done. So far, this is giving a slurping sound, so it is definitely a very thick filling, but it is our filling. This, once again, is our chicken pot pie filling. And really, as you can see, we're almost done because all we have to do now is put it into the pie shell, cover it, and bake it. And really, all we have to do is bake the pie shell. I mean, everything else here is already cooked. That's why I took the time to pre-cook the chicken. In fact, I think it's getting a little thick. I think it's time to throw in a little bit of milk now. Not too much. I mean, I don't want this to be a soup, but we do want a nice gravy. Besides, there's one thing about cast iron, as I found. When you make gravy in cast iron, it very quickly becomes too thick. So I'm not worried about that right now. Now all we have to do is thicken it up a little bit, and we will be ready. And this is definitely plenty of pot pie filling. You know, in fact, if you really wanted to, I shouldn't say cheat, but if you wanted to do it the easy way, all you really have to do is do a pie crust and cover this pan right here, and not even put a pie filling, not even put a pie crust on the bottom, which is what a lot of people do. And hey, there's really nothing wrong with that because after all, you're still going to eat it. Let's just thicken it out a little bit more. And I do believe we will finally be ready. It's good because, as I said, my choice of making that pie crust from scratch has definitely extended our time here. However, we are still running a typical time with this Wednesday Live, so that's not so bad. Val, I have pepper grinders that I fill and also buy some of those pre-filled throwaway grinders. When I was a kid in the 60s, we raised rabbits for eating. Turn the heat down. That's what makes it get too thick. Well, I wanted to thicken it up a little bit. Because as I said, I don't want a soup in the pie. However, it's definitely getting to the right consistency, I think. So we're probably ready. So now, like you said, I will turn off the heat because I do believe it's time to move back over. Take another look at our two number 5 skillets. Okay. All right. I'm gonna have to get out a glove. It's almost as though I've learned my lesson about holding hot cast iron pans. Because now it's time to try to do this without spilling it all over the place. Oh man, this smells good. And yeah, this definitely smells like chicken pot pie too. Well, I mean, after all, that's because I'm using chicken in it. What do you expect? Oh, and here I thought there was too much. It looks like, yeah, in fact, this actually turned out nicely. And one last thing, even though I basically used gravy as this, you notice there's one thing I did not use in this. Cream of mushroom or cream of whatever, or cream of chicken. Not that there's anything wrong with using canned cream of mushroom soup. In fact, I'm kind of dividing it over here. But it's better, well, I know we know this already, when you make it yourself, even though I did use canned peas and carrots. But there we are. So the last step is to roll out the top as quickly as we can. And then they will go into the oven. Means I get to, let's clean up my mess a little bit. Throw out this extra piece of wax paper and get 2 more pieces of wax paper. This is going to be a little easier though. The top is easier because, well, all we have to do is put it over the top. We don't have to press it down into the pan. So really, the hard part's over. Let's get that thing out of the... I reach it. Okay, have to get this out of the fridge. Oh yeah, cooled off nicely. Notice I put the whole cast iron pan in the fridge to help it cool off. All right, here comes, oh, this is definitely nice and cool. Number 3. Shoot. Oh, there it is. Okay. Let's get this thing rolled out fast. Little by little. right. As I'm doing this, I have a new song by Peter Gabriel going through my head. I'm not being paid to promote that. I'm only saying Peter Gabriel is my all-time favorite musician, and I was so psyched when he at last released a new album last month. First one in over 20 years. Oh yeah, definitely much easier when it's still cool. So let's get this on as fast as we can. Okay. You know, I've seen many of my favorite channels doing paid sponsorships, and that's perfectly fine. Except apparently some of the products that they are promoting, some of them are turning out to be questionable. And for that reason, well, I'm kind of glad that I chose not to do that. Okay, but enough of that. There we are. Here is number one. As I said, with an unusual orangey type of color, which again comes from the um, chicken crust. There we go. That I mixed in with the pie filling. But there we are. Just crimp it down. And here is pot pie number one. Oh, finally, let's cover this Crisco here. Finally, get out that knife one more time. This is to release steam. That's why they do it. And there we are. Pot pie number one, ready to go into the oven. Nice. So let's not waste any more time because we have another crust to roll out, and we should do that while it's still solid. Also, because I know we're getting on in time. Ugh. But we're just about done. There's no denying that. And in theory, I mean, especially since the oven's heated up to 425, it shouldn't take very long to bake these pans in the oven. I mean, especially since the crust, I mean, again, it's already cooked on the inside. It'll be nice and warm when it comes out. It's only a matter, really, of baking the crust more than anything else. So definitely we're in the final stage, and this is the easy part. I would say the last hard part was pressing that other crust into the pan. Actually preparing the filling was easy. You saw that. All we really had to do was prepare nice, thick, and tasty gravy, mix our pre-cooked chicken and veggies and onions, and there we are. And there we are, too. Let's get this going with the other pan. Okay, come on, let's do this quickly. There, much better, much better. Haha. Let's get this on nice and fast. Come on. All right. Bam. Much better. Yeah, definitely this part is much easier. So, get to use this to, well, we've got a little bit over here. Crimp down the edges. kind of like hide my mistakes that way. Although I am thinking maybe I should indeed have put some baking powder or soda into the crust. Well, it's too late now, but I'll have to make a note of that next time. Nonetheless, this part here leaking out, cover that up. There we go. Finally, once again, one, two, three, four, and there we are at last. Ready to go into the oven. Let me do this, and where did my camera go? There it is. Let's get this into, let's very quickly take a couple of photos. There we go. Okay, and now at long last, I will say again, this would have been much faster if we had used pre-made pie crust. But no, I had to do it the hard way. But well, hey, because I did it the hard way, here's the result. Pie number one and pie number two. But definitely note to self, I don't even have I've got to put a recipe for this on my website, and I'm gonna have to make a couple of notes. One, if I'm gonna, I like the idea of using two number five skillets. However, I definitely have to increase the amount of flour and stuff used in the crust. That only just barely fit. That all came to about 2.5 cups, maybe three and a half cups might have been better to make those crusts for that pie. Because people would much rather, and I would much rather have more than just barely enough. On the other hand, the filling, I think the filling was easy to do, and I think that was just the right amount of filling there. And we used that number 12 skillet to do that. So the gravy was easy. As I said, I pre-cooked the chicken. The rest of that was no difficulty at all. You could have left out the peas and cooked carrots. Yes, you could have. Uh, I'm trying to remember. It's been so long since. Remember, the whole point of this was comparing this to Walmart frozen Banquet pot pies. Do those Banquet pot pies have vegetables in them, or is it only a paste of chicken and paste? I honestly don't remember, although I seem to think they do have veggies in those Banquet pot pies. Do you really think Peter Gabriel is better than Neil Young? Uh, I might say yes, but that's just me, nonetheless. That's how I am with the smell of lamb, but I'm fine with the smell of the lamb mold. Oh, yeah, gotta have that lamb mold reference, don't you? Clico, I'm allergic to mushrooms and anything truffle. Within 2 hours, it gets really ugly. Last 36, 48 hours, fungus and mold are a hard no for me. Well, then in that case, Clico, if you're going to do this, do it the way I did, because I did not use cream of mushroom soup as my base for this. All I did, as you saw, was put together basically an onion gravy, and that was enough. Well, I used chicken broth, remember, to thicken the gravy, but it worked. I mean, that really was no problem at all. The hardest part for this was definitely putting that crust together, and even that wasn't too difficult. My big mistake, I always make a mistake each week, it seems like. My big mistake, as I said, was I definitely should have used more flour for the two pie crusts, and that's my best recommendation. Everybody is entitled to their opinion. Yes, exactly. I mean, it's music, which is great, but everything is just an opinion. um all right, and going back up here. see what else we have in the comments here. It's like the old raid. The smell of mushroom in any form will send me gagging and out of the house. Yeah, I'm yeah, pink peony, if I'm pronouncing that right, or peony, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, despite the fact that I just barely managed to squeeze enough pie dough out of this, I still like how it turned out, and I'm looking forward to how the finished one turns out. Someone doesn't have an oven, can we just use foil and put foil and coals on top? Absolutely. Bold few too. That is indeed the basis of cast iron cooking, especially Dutch oven cooking. Anybody who cooks regularly with coals in a Dutch oven will tell you about that. And they will probably say, in fact, that's how I should have made these pot pies. All right. Never would have thought of using Dinty Moore beef stew. Yeah, you could do that. I mean, hey, if you really want to do this, I mean, as easy as possible, get yourself some pot pie, some pastry shells or puff pastry if you want to use it. Just scoop in the Dinty Moore beef stew, cover it, and bake it. On the other hand, though, I would at least suggest add your own seasonings. Do something to make it taste better. Dinty Moore tastes okay, but why settle for okay when just a little bit of seasoning and it'll be fantastic? As I said, I like what I did with the pastry, with the pie shell. Mushrooms, fungus, athlete, foot. I remember you mentioning that you like that musician, Eric. Yeah, yeah. I discovered Peter Gabriel in the 1980s when Sledgehammer became a hit. But I started listening to more from Peter Gabriel, and he was the one who really clicked for me. So um, I'll go into that another time. One of my musical highlights was when I first saw him in concert in 1987. We had a neighbor who made their own summer sausage with venison. Oh, that sounds good. Growing up there, five boys and one girl for us kids. My mother would make a 9 by 13 pan of chicken pot pie. Nice. And gone in one setting. Oh, I don't doubt that. Of course, there's no reason why, for instance, you couldn't take this big 12-inch cast iron skillet here and make a pot pie out of this. I just wanted to be fancy and you make a couple of those smaller pot pies because, well, like I said, I'm supposed to be comparing this to Walmart pot pies, but I'd like to think there's really no comparison. Not just the fact, of course, that it's made from scratch. And of course, I had the luxury to put all of that effort into those two pot pies. So that in itself does make a difference. But just that, because it makes a difference, that also makes it especially worth it. So yeah, I mean it's pretty much a given that homemade is better with almost everything. Pot pies are definitely one of them. All right. Now, okay, I didn't even keep track. I would say this, I probably put this in the oven maybe at about 20 past 9. So we're talking like about 6 minutes ago, maybe a little bit more than 6 minutes ago. Now, the recipe I followed, which is basically the Pillsbury pot pie recipe, it says here bake 30 to 40 minutes or until crust is golden brown. But since I'm using two smaller pans, I would think, or I would hope that this should be done in like 20 to maybe 30 minutes, which means since it's only been about maybe 10 minutes at the most, we're probably talking at least another 10 minutes or so. So, okay, well, we can keep on going if you want, or I'll just do a video of taking the pies out of the oven. Are you using convection? I don't think this gas stove has a convection setting. It's a very basic stove, and all it has is just simply bake and broil. So naturally, I use the bake setting. But nonetheless, again, it's a gas stove, so the heat certainly circulates throughout the oven. Um, and there must be a way for the broiler to work. So it's 9 there. It's actually 9:30 here. And well, thank you again, Patricia Parsons. I will say once again, this is, well, let me move this out of the way. This now dirty pan is a Birmingham Stove and Range Century Series number 10. You know, the funny thing about this is that the markings on this pan actually tells us a lot. If we know our history of Birmingham Stove and Range, what I can tell you is this pan is definite proof that not every single cast iron pan made from the 1960s to the 1990s had a USA made in USA mark on them. Many of them did, but some of them did not. And I can demonstrate that in this manner. Well, number one, of course, well, let me get the a little piece fell off of there. Anyway, number one, this particular pan does not have a made in USA mark on it. However, what it does have is a size of 12 and 7/16 inches. And that's an unusual size, isn't it? Even for a BSR pan. Well, it is known that in the mid 1970s, BSR resized a number of their pans, especially so that they would be compatible with competitors' glass lids because their customers really, really wanted glass lids and they didn't have the capacity to make or capability to make them themselves. Also, it was a cost cutting measure so that the pans would fit better into the molds and the patterns. So, as a result, if you see a pan with a size of 12 and 7/16, that means this is a BSNR pan, especially from the 1970s to the 1980s. So that definitely indicates that, yet it does not have a made in USA mark. Therefore, this pan is proof that not every single cast iron skillet made during those times had a made in USA mark. And I know that in my early days, when I made that video on identifying cast iron skillets, I made a mistake myself and claimed in that video that there was a law saying that pans had to have a made in USA mark on them. And I was wrong. And I have spent the last few years saying that I was wrong and doing my best to correct that mistake. So, looking forward to the follow up. Well, I already did the follow up actually. If you look on my channel, there's another video that specifically says made in USA cast iron pans. And that's where I did the same thing that I did just now. That it explains what I hope is a more accurate description of the made in USA mark on pans, including BSNR. So, as I said, I said some time ago that I was incorrect when I made that video. I even have updated the description of that video itself to note that. So just because that's the truth, you know, it's not rocket science. It's not like I'm going to be hauled away into court or sued over it or anything like that. But I would rather be as accurate as possible, especially since, well, not especially, but it's kind of like an aside in that anyone who follows the cast iron community on Facebook, you will know that there are some groups on Facebook that have a lot of drama to them. And it's almost amusing that there can be drama in the cast iron community, but there is. And on a number of those groups, if you mention my website, Cast Iron Chaos, almost certainly somebody is going to come out saying, don't trust Cast Iron Chaos because his website is spreading misinformation. And they've been saying that for the past few years. However, if you notice, whenever they come up and say that, they accuse my website of spreading misinformation. They never provide examples of what parts of my website are inaccurate. Only one person I can say really has taken the time to point out mistakes on my website. And when it was pointed out, I gladly changed that information and updated it. So that's all I'm going to say about the drama going on in the cast iron community because I'm not interested in drama. I'm not interested in making posts there announcing, my point of view or defending myself from those accusations because I really have no need to. So, Gary Dodson, I wouldn't say you only trust me because that's not the right thing to do either. I would say trust the best sources, the ones that are the most accurate and the least biased. So, I mean, if that includes my website, well, thank you very much. But I am not claiming to be the only reliable authority on this. I mean, heck, I'm not a professional. I'm not a professional historian. There are cast iron collectors whose collections dwarf mine. There are cast iron historians whose knowledge of cast iron really puts me to shame. I mean, I could not tell you the details, for instance, of the different kinds of markings on a Griswold pan, for instance. If you watch the Mudbrookers show on Tuesday night, he commonly goes into information that I'm not privy to. So I will only say this just because I'm just stating it as it is. I pride myself in trying to provide as much accurate information as possible, and I hope I am. And likewise with my website as well. And if I do make mistakes, please tell me. If there are still parts of my website that are not accurate, please tell me so that I can look up the correct information and update it. All right, enough of that. Corey Clark, I've been collecting for over 30 years and you never know it all. Yes, exactly. Kimberly Miller, I'm just there for the cast iron, not the drama. I have daughters. If I want drama, I'll ask them what's going on in their lives. Yes. Kimberly Miller, I'm sure you're the type of person who used to wear a t-shirt that said, "You can't scare me. I have small children." Okay. Anyway, having said all that, Val's Black Cat's rule. I take all recipes and mix them around and put the best of each. That's definitely the best way to do it. I was hoping this would be a drama-free hobby. I don't think there is such a thing as a drama-free hobby. No matter what it is, you will find drama. I guess it's just human nature. People just have to argue over anything, no matter what it is. Cast iron cookware, yeah, you got people arguing over it. Comic books, Magic the Gathering, chess, uh, guns. Oh boy, guns. Camping, uh, Dutch oven, coal cooking. There will be drama no matter what. So I just do my best to try to avoid it when possible. All right, having again, my first concert was Night Ranger. I was 7 years old. Sister was forced to take me. Oh, I'm sure that's probably something you'll never forget. They will cook in the pie. Like I said, this is not a convection oven. Okay, yeah, I know the drama. I have 3 daughters. Yes, exactly. I love cast iron history. There's a lot of great channels out there, and enjoy them all. Okay. Mm, I'm starting to smell those pies already. Let me turn on the oven light. It's nice having an oven light. And let me see if we can get some kind of a view of how those pies are turning out right now. Crap! I forgot the egg wash. I did it again. I forgot the egg wash. Ah, oh well. It should still turn out all right anyway. Yep, once again I forgot something. Never fails. Corey Clark, I watch gun channels because that's my other hobby, and there's a lot of drama on them. Yes, indeed. Chaos detector. Add it now? Mm, well, maybe. I suppose I could give it a try. Um, all right, then let's very quickly. Let's do this as fast as we can, I guess, which should be pretty fast, mind you. In fact, thing that's going to take longest is digging out a little bowl, getting out an egg. Uh, and I could use the same dirty whisk because, after all, the egg, I mean, this whisk was used simply for creating that gravy, and um, it's going to bake in the oven anyway. So it's not like it's really going to get any cooties on it. I can only imagine what YouTube comments will say about that. Speaking of drama, mind you. All right, here's our egg. And there we go. That sure was hard. Maybe because this is going to be a savory pie, let's throw in just a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. Boy, that's more than a little bit, isn't it? That's all right. That's how I like my pepper. Mix all this up. And all right, time to get out that glove again. Also dig out my basting brush. And here comes pie number 1, which is looking very nice. Actually, look at this. This is looking pretty good already. So, based on this, we might only have to do this like for maybe about 10 minutes or so. Oops, there we go. I think I might have burst it. Gotta be careful. All right. Anyway, there's one. Oh, great. I think it might have scorched it, in fact. Oh, well. And carefully, here's number 2. And be a little bit more gentle. Try not to break the crust. There we are. Only need to do a thin egg wash anyway. There's number 2. Back in the oven. All right. Okay. Now, let's wet this sponge here. See if I can clean up these scorch marks. Oh, there we go. That wasn't so hard. All right. That takes care of that. Now, especially since that oven is at 425, I'm going to time it and say 10 minutes, especially since, wow, we're running late here. It's 9:42. And I started this video early too. I'm saying probably in about another 10 minutes, I think everything should be done, and that would include the egg wash. All right. Put foil around the edge of the pie and your crust won't get too dark. Now, we're a little late for that now, but also remember as well, I put the extra seasoning in the crust, and that includes the chicken breading that I used in the fried chicken. That's why it has something of an orange color to it. So that might actually help. Speaking of tea, have you ever made your own chai tea? That sounds good too. They're unique. YouTube has their live at the Fillmore version of Statesboro Blues. Oh, I see. We're still talking about music. Well, that's what I get for mentioning music. Cooties are a long made up name for any gross thing that crawls on you and makes you itch. Yes, yes, that's exactly true. That is what that's what it is, Deep Hell Pal. Cooties are essentially something that they invented in grade school and kindergartens. It's like it's like if I touch a girl or if I kiss a girl, I get cooties. That kind of thing. I'm just sticking some butter back in the fridge right now. And then from there, we just have another few minutes to kill, so to speak. It's only a matter of waiting. No, sorry about that. 9:42 already. Yeah, tell me about it. These live videos, it's like sometimes the time just flies by. Cooties are lice. Wasn't there actually a cootie game, one of those kids games with a big giant, uh, although made to look kid friendly, a cootie bug? It's been so long, I barely remember that. I got all the girls because I didn't mind. Okay, it's true about kissing girls. Ew, cuties. Deep hell, drink it out of the lamb mold. Oh yeah, chai tea, of course. Yeah, that's it. Cootie was a game made by Chopper Toy Company. Cootie was a game. Yeah, there was quite a pile of Pepsi you got there. Oh yeah, yeah. I stocked up when they were on sale. That much I can say. I think there was a toy. Okay, getting back to this. I'm starting to hear some sizzling now coming from the oven. Probably has something to do, in fact, with that egg wash. But really, it's only a matter of, it'll be done when the crust is cooked. And that includes that egg wash now. It's now 9:45. I'm going to give it about another 5 minutes, and that's probably all we need. Because again, this is at 320, is at, yeah, 425 degrees, which means I should already start preparing trivets to put out the pot pies, as well as getting rid of this extra um, wax paper. All right. So, okay, there we go. That means we get to move the light back over here. And we will be able to look at two of my favorite kitchen trivets, as this is what the pies will rest on when they come out of the oven. One of my first cast iron trivets. And I got this one largely because of the symbol in the center, which resembles something you've probably seen a lot on my website and my channel, the Star of Chaos. And this one, on the other hand, has something of a personal message that I don't really talk about. Okay. Um, 10 more minutes. Probably boiling out of the pie. 10 more minutes. I'll turn down the temperature 375. All right, I'll do that at least. I will turn the temperature down to 375. All right, China lamb mold. It'd be perfect for Indian Easter celebration. I would think there are because, I mean, why not? After all, Christianity is actually popular in India as it is in other nations as well. I mean, yes, it's true that India does have a heavy um, Hindu population and a heavy Muslim population, but Christianity is definitely there. But of course, now is not the time for religious discussions. Point is that if you want an Indian Easter celebration, I would say go for it. Yes, I put a sheet pan under fruit pies to save my oven. Yeah, that's a good point. Taking another look at this, if I look here in the oven, I am not really seeing any dripping, fortunately. There's a little bit of bubbling on one of the pies, but nothing seems to be dripping out. But yes, overflow from a pie is really not something that we're fond of. I misspelled it. Shaper Toys. That's it. Made the cootie game. I only remember the cootie game because, well, I usually saw it in the stores, and I think I saw it in one of my grade school rooms at school. But of course, that was so long ago. It's only a very vague memory. All right. I have that same trivet. Yeah. Cook Indian food. Yes, I did. And actually, yeah, I should definitely do some more Indian cooking because I liked it. And there are so many dishes from India that I need to try. Even butter chicken. You know, I have not made butter chicken yet. I have not made tikka masala yet. I like making basmati rice. Yes, and I have indeed made a couple of Indian chicken dishes, but not regularly, I'm afraid. Yeah, or sag, or even naan. I have not yet made naan bread, which is a shame because I have a good dear friend who loves naan bread, and I never did have the opportunity to make it for her. Bunny chow. Well, bunny chow is something like an African Indian fusion dish. I mean, it was made by Indian population that immigrated to South Africa. But yeah, I really loved the bunny chow. I made naan on my inverted cast iron pan. Boy, just mentioning it, I can see has already made a couple of comments here. So I think I'm gonna have to consider doing some of this in the very near future. Butter chicken, that would be a good excuse to do this live because it would give me an excuse to do it. I've got such a long list of recipes that it's like, I want to make this. And and they just keep getting longer and longer. I mean, so definitely, I mean, besides, I certainly need content for this channel. So why not? All right. Well, then, this may very well be a plan coming up because, as I mentioned, this is part two of the of the three-part Walmart series. Last week we did burritos. This week we're doing pot pies. Next week, once again, it's pizza night. Especially to compare to those Walmart frozen microwave pizzas. You know, the ones that are like about 8 inches wide and they have a crust like cardboard. I think we can do better than that in cast iron. The week after next, 2 weeks from tonight, will be the first cast iron Wednesday of February. And that means it will be time for the monthly cast iron ask me anything Q&A session. Then the week after that, although you know what's coming up then, Valentine's Day. So maybe I could do butter chicken or maybe a Valentine's themed dish. We still have a good 3 weeks yet to figure that out. Yes, naan is more like a flatbread. I would certainly agree there. All right, we are probably getting into that time. If I look again, oh, I might even say so. And yeah, thank you for the suggestion of actually making the egg wash because I do believe it has improved the look of the chicken. Let me move this over a little. Chicken pies. because let's take a look and see what you think. Here we go. Here is pie number one. Not bad at all. Still bubbling on top, in fact. And then at last, in fact, I could turn off the oven now. Here is pie number two. Nice. There we go. Yeah, the egg wash definitely helped. So thank you so much for that. Furthermore, this pan is so hot, it's actually going to continue cooking that crust for at least a few more minutes. So, look at that, folks. I do believe we have it. So, I guess that comes down to the question. Do you think this would be better than a frozen Walmart pot pie? Do bears poop in the woods? All right, because there we are, folks. Here are our cast iron pot pies, where I took some liberties and made a crust that I would think that people would want to eat as well. So, yeah, that means people will eat this whole pie and not just simply dig out the filling. And that is something I'm quite happy about. But there we are. One was made in a lot. This one, in fact, was made in a one single notch Lodge number 5 skillet. And this, on the other hand, was made in a handwritten Birmingham Stove and Range Red Mountain series pan. These may very well be about the same age, in fact. So I'm quite happy to have made these pot pies here in these pans. And I'm especially happy with how they turned out. Of course, I mean, especially with the way these things are bubbling, I can't touch it until it's done, until it cools off. But nonetheless, here are our pot pies. And with that, that concludes week number 2, as I mentioned, of our 3-part series on cheap Walmart dishes. Which, again, the point was I was inspired to do this as a way of trying to outdo those cheap frozen Walmart things that we all have in our freezers these days. And I'm not blaming anyone for having them. But yeah, these are the reasons why nobody makes homemade dishes anymore. You know, all of those little things like my mom used to cobble together this special dish when we were young, and we didn't have a lot of food. You never do that, and people don't do that anymore. All they do now is get Walmart frozen burritos and Walmart frozen pot pies and Walmart pizza. So this was all done in an effort to show folks that with very little effort, you can have something much better than what you buy at Walmart. Now, what you buy at Walmart is okay, but why be satisfied with okay when you don't have to be? When, with again, just a little effort, you have something that is much, much better. Something that I hope um, certainly makes the effort worth it. We'll have one more look here, in fact. And with that, I do believe it is. We are definitely. Definitely time to get going here. Yes, exactly. And good night, William Hurt. Thank you very much, and thank you for everybody for taking the time here. I mean, as you can see, this has gone over 2 hours because I started early and ended late. But I do believe the results are worth it. Yeah, this is definitely photo worthy, and I'll be posting these photos soon enough. Other than that, I'm also looking forward to eating them. And I can only hope as well that this inspires some folks to give it a try. And well, just make yourself a pot pie because that's one of those things no kid will say no to. And having said that, yeah, it's definitely time to say goodnight to everybody. To Clico and Corey Clark and RT Scott, Beth Button, Celine77, Chris McGee and Rums, Val's Black Cafe's Rules and Howard and Patricia Parsons. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to show up. And I can only hope I've done my best to entertain you because that's really the whole point here on these live videos is to have fun. And having you folks here is really what makes this all fun. And thank you very much, Greg Hart and Kimberly Miller and Scottish Less. Is it less or lass? Scottish Lass. Are we still on live? Yes, we are, but we're only going to be for a few more seconds because everything is all done. Because, well, we've accomplished what we want, and now it's time to move on to the rest of our week and to, well, look forward to next week, which, as I said, next week is going to be pizza night. And so from there, I can only say to everybody, have yourself a good evening. And thank you very much for watching, folks. Really, this is what makes it all worthwhile for me. So have a good night, everybody. I'll see you all next Wednesday.